Alright guys, so here's the mining rig right now. As you can see, I've got the cards set up on the milk crate here. Got my milk crate miner, she's doing her thing. But what I realized through more research is I thought these old PCI ports, the ones with I think the power's on this end versus the other end, I don't think these are gonna work for the risers. From my research, they're 5 volts instead of 12 volts, and there's a few other differences as far as like the pinouts and stuff. So really, I thought I had room for 4 more cards because there's 3 more of those regular PCIs. But from my research, I'm pretty sure we can't use them, and I'm not gonna chance it and try to fry something just by testing it out. So instead, I bought a new motherboard and a CPU, and this will just be more of my test board where I'll test stuff out on. So we got that coming in the mail. We'll be able to put up to 13 risers and cards on that other board, so we'll have a lot more expandability. For this one, I only have room for one more PCIe or riser slot right here, and that's it. This board will be filled unless I get expanded cards or the 3 to 4 port risers, which I hear can be finicky. So I'd rather just have the straight up risers. Today we're gonna move everything from this over to the pallet that I built the other day in the video. So yeah, let's take this apart. We'll shut this down, and then we'll bring this over there and start piecing it together. Alright guys, we're back. So, back with Crypt here. Our goal today, our little project here, is to move everything from this rig, our little milk crate miner, over to our pallet. We ended up getting a bigger power supply because the power supply I have in this can only has 4 6/8 pin PCI connectors. This one's got 6 of them, so we're gonna pair these two up to run as many cards as we can once they all come in. As I said before, we got 2 more cards coming in, so that will be great. And as also we got a motherboard and motherboard and CPU coming, so that we can slap more than just 4 cards on our rig. But for now, we're gonna unplug all this stuff, get this moved onto here, and I guess unpack this guy because we're gonna need him as well. So first off, let's move this out of the way. Unpack this guy. So just so you know, we got the gaming power supply Hive. It's a 1,000 watt power supply. Roswell's power supply. I've got the same type of power supply in there, but it's a 750. So far so good as far as being happy with it. So we decided to try the 1,000 watt here because we do need more PCI plugs. Now I could use a splitter, which I'm probably gonna have to do later in the future as I get more and more graphics cards, because I don't want to have a few, let's say 3 power supplies, which I may end up needing anyway, because I'm only running these smaller power supplies. I'm not going for the 2,000 watt or the really high wattage. I'm just going with whatever's cheapest at the time that will still fit my needs. Unfortunately, when I got this power supply, I miscalculated because the 2 1070s right here, so the 2 1070 for the wins, they require 2 8 pins each. So that took up almost all of my, it took up all of the pins I had on the power supply, all of the power connectors. So I actually had to run this card off of my gaming rig right beside it. But now that I'm moving the miner over to this end, I need another power supply, so I don't have to run the cards off of my computer. So yeah, it should be good. Let's take all this apart. So I'm just starting out here with these risers. Just gonna unplug them. Pretty straightforward. All right. We're gonna have to unplug the CPU power here. I'm not adjusting the camera just to film these disconnections because they're pretty straightforward. Alright, so I'm going to have to fiddle with this a little bit. I'm going to shut off the camera and just get this taken apart so we got the pieces all out. Nobody needs to see that, right? Alright, we'll see you in a second. Alright, so we're back. We've removed all of the equipment from our milk crate miner here. We got our empty milk crate. It did us well for the first little while, but now we got everything geared up on here. So let's make sure everything's gonna fit. This might be a problem actually. I did not calculate my large cooler here in the calculation. So it seems like we're gonna have to figure something out here. Oh yeah, this might work. Shove it in under here. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to use my little plate here that I had supporting it before. Got some little foam to protect the pin out a little bit because it's not really meant to go directly on a piece of wood or anything hard, I would assume. Alright. Something like that. Now I'm probably only going to use the Hive one to start because I don't need the other one right now. But essentially, eventually I'll have one CPU over here and the other one over on the other side. I might have to adjust the positioning of this later on. Oh, I didn't calculate that too well. Well, once I get the other CPU and motherboard, this is a massive cooler. I don't need this big of a cooler. I only had it because it was already on there, so I just decided to use it. So for now, I suppose this will work. It's just not ideal. It's not the way I wanted to do it. It's kind of hanging off there, but we'll make it work for now. So we need our motherboard power. So it's pretty plug and play, guys. I mean, you can read the book if you really need to, but this is all pretty darn straightforward. Just plug it where it says motherboard connection, MB. Then we got PCI here. They're all labeled, so it makes your life really easy. So you need 3 out of the 4 PCIs here to power. Yeah, because these are double PCI. So we got 6 pin plus the 2 other pin to make an 8 pin for any 8 pin designs, and another 6 pin plus 8 pin. So 2 of these lines are going to power these 2 cards, and I'll be able to have 1 more for this line with a spare. With a spare full PCI cable that should do the trick. So this one says CPU on it, I believe. Actually, no, it doesn't, but I know it goes for the CPU. Now we got our Molex, the ones that are going to power the powered risers here. So we're going to plug that into the SATA port. More Molex, PCI, E. And my last PCIe. So yeah, those 2. Oh no, really, I don't need another PCIe. 1, 2. Yeah, wait, I do need 1 more. I only got 2 there. So this one's supposed to have 6 plus 2. Yeah, so we got all 6 there now. So I'm going to have one spare 8-pin on this power supply for, you know, another 1080 Ti or whatever else. And everything else will be used. And then I have that power supply over there that I took off for the other cards that I got coming. It's a beefier power plug than my last one, so should be able to hold a little more current or a little more power, since it is a higher voltage power supply here. Alright, let's tuck this in here. Right now I'm just doing a test fit, guys. I will secure all of this properly when I'm ready to go. But as you can see, this is why we do a test fit, because things don't always fit the way you'd plan, because especially when you do it my way and you don't measure every single thing. You just kind of play it by ear and just adjust as you go. But it works, right? At least it's working so far. Alright. So we got a motherboard power. Where is that plug? Alright, it's right over on this end. And that cable a little bit so it fits better where we want it here. Plugged all the way in. Yeah, we're good. Alright, so we got our motherboard plugged in, our power for our motherboard, I should say. Lift this up, get this foamer here a bit better. There we go. Alright. Motherboard power. Let's get the CPU line. CPU power there. No, that's Molex. PCI. Alright, we got our CPU power right here, power pin. Let's connect that there. Some motherboards will have more than one CPU power. This one's only got one, or one motherboard power. Or sorry, yeah, one CPU power. Some boards have more than one. This one's only got one, like I said. Alright. We're on there. Alright, so our board's powered, guys. Now, all we really got to do is get our risers plugged in and power up the GPUs. And we should be good, and then hook up our display and all that stuff, right? So, which one am I going to put as number one? I suppose it doesn't really matter. Before I actually plug these in, I'm probably going to set up the BIOS and make it so that I can use my output, my display output on the motherboard here. That will allow me not to have to mess around with the display outputs on the graphics cards, and hopefully get a little better hash rate on that card that was using my display output. I just have to go into the BIOS and make sure I'm using that one. So we'll set all that up before we actually physically plug in the cards to everything here. But for now I'm going to get all the risers powered. Get all this going. So for myself, I'm only going to power 2 risers with this. I know there's 4 on here, but just to spread out the power a little bit more, I'll probably grab my other Molex and send that last one on a secondary Molex. Since I'm not doing anything else with these, I might as well spread out the power rather than having it all being drawn on the one Molex connection here. Plug that back into our SATA plug. There we go. Running this guy over to here. Plug in our Molex. Plug it in, plug it in. Alright, so we got that part. that's pretty much the wiring for that. We're going to put back in our fancy dancy hard drive here. We got Ubuntu or Linux on this flash drive. So that's our hard drive. We got to make sure that's plugged in or we're not going to be able to boot anything. There we go. Okay guys, we're back. We got the keyboard and mouse hooked up. None of the graphics cards are hooked up yet. We're just going to boot it up and make sure that the BIOS is set up for the onboard display. And yeah, we'll see how things go here. Let's turn on the power supply. We got a light on there, that's good. Make sure we're not touching too much with any cables. Alright, let's boot this thing up. Huh. I'm surprised the Molex was able to actually power these cards. I didn't expect that. I may need to disconnect the Molex so that these cards aren't getting a little bit of power here. We're just booting up there now. Let's see what happens. Oh, right on. So it automatically loaded into that card there, or it automatically loaded into the onboard connection there. So I might not need to do anything, but I'm actually going to reset this and go into the BIOS and just make sure that it's the basic card is, sorry, the onboard is what is required, or how it's going to be displayed. I don't want it to, when I hook up all the cards, to start trying to display through one of the cards. So we're just going to make sure that that's set up properly. Just trying to find it. I'm not really used to setting this up. I've never done this before. So let's see. Alright. I'm just going to leave it. We'll hook everything up and we'll see. We'll give it a test and we'll see how she goes. Hopefully I'll still get my display on that one. Otherwise we'll have to disconnect everything. Just going to power down here manually. We don't need it to power right back up. And let's try, alright, let's try hooking these up and see what we get. We'll do one at a time. Alright, we got one there. Slide this guy over a bit. Alright, we're just going to leave one. Give it a test. Make sure we're still booting up on the onboard and not trying to boot up on the graphics card display here. Oh wait, before I do that, turn that back off. I gotta plug in the power, PCI power here. Let's try again. Fingers crossed we don't have to go back into the BIOS and do a bit of research to find out what's going on here, or to make it so that it boots up off of the onboard. It's looking like we're gonna have to do something. I might just jump on the other computer and do a bit of research, because it looks like it's trying to boot up from this card now, or the display is sending the display through that card, which is not gonna work for me the way I got it set up. So we're gonna fix that there now. Alright guys, so it looks like I was able to find, took me a little while actually, but I had to search through my BIOS to find where I said I forced the onboard graphics to work instead of the PCI. It took me a little while, but I went under Northbridge. It's a much older motherboard. So I had to go under Northbridge as far as the category and find it in under there. So if anybody is curious with this sort of older ASUS motherboard, hit me up in the comments and I'll show you exactly what I did to set up the onboard card there. So we're just going, or to use the onboard graphics rather than the PCI graphics. So we're just going to shut down again, try plugging in the first graphics card and make sure that we're still booting off of the right spot here. Alright, we're off. Might as well turn off the power here. There we go. Perfect. So it's working. We're running off of our onboard graphics. I've got my BIOS popping up. I got this stuff going on the screen, which means we're able to pull off of our cable here, not the HDMI, the old school connection. What's it called? DVI, I think. No, DVI is the new one. Anyways, the old serial connection. All right, so we got that going. The card is, or the software is booting up there now. Looks like we're good to go. Let this do its thing. Start booting up. So what I'm going to do now is once this boots up, I'm just going to hook up the other cards, maybe clean up the lines a little bit. But I'm not too concerned about the lines being a bit of a mess right now, because we're going to fix that later. Looks like we're just doing a slow boot up right now, so we'll let that do its thing. Better platform. The system is running in low graphics mode. Your screen graphics card and input setting could not be detected correctly. We'll need to configure these yourself. Okay. Alright, well, we're just doing a little bit of setup here. It seems like it's having a bit of trouble reading the graphics through that card with the other graphics going on. We'll let this do its thing, I guess. Guys, we're back. It took a little bit of messing around. I kept getting errors on the video graphics cards or whatnot. I ended up having to plug in USB here, and for some reason it came up. I think just messing around with the settings, I ended up getting it. But yeah, I'm not loving the motherboard, let's say, right now. Or at least the BIOS, because it's being a bit of a pain. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna plug in the rest of the cards and hope that they're all seen. Alright, let's power this guy on. Hopefully we get a display this time. We're up and running. Come in, onboard display. Give me what I want. Yes, alright, we got the onboard display working. Now hopefully these cards all read and we don't have any issues in Ubuntu with errors and whatnot. I'm not sure exactly what was causing it. This is the first time I've run into these sort of problems before. So we'll see if we can solve them here. Just gonna slap another tire wrap on there so it doesn't move out of my way. I ended up cutting it earlier so I could put the regular display on there, or so I could use the HDMI for the display, because was having trouble getting the onboard working. Let's see now. Your screen. Oh, come on. Alright guys, we're back. I'm having a lot of issues with getting the onboard display port to work. It seems like it only works. What does work, I get the display here, but I get all sorts of graphical issues. But when I plug in the USB, the HDMI here over to a TV, it seems to work fine. So yeah, we're just gonna give this a test there now that it's all plugged in, and make sure that we're able to run. Actually, first we need our Ethernet. Not gonna work too good without any internet. Won't be able to connect to our server, so we're just gonna run this temporarily here. See what we got. Alright, move this over here. There we go. Hooked up. Alright, we should be able to run our miner now. And an error. So we got some errors here. I'm not sure what's going on. They're mining, but we got some sort of error assigned value. Alright, it's looking like it's not letting me adjust my fan speed now for some reason. So I'm probably gonna have to play around with it a little bit more to be able to get all of my adjustments in here. It's not letting me adjust my fan speed again. I'm probably gonna have to go in and install drivers and everything again. I don't know why it makes me do this every time. I had this issue last time I tried to reconfigure everything. Luckily, Block Operations has a really nice layout on how to get Linux up and running, or how to get your EWEF miner up and running on Linux here. So anyways, we're hashing away. It's working, but I don't have control of my fan curves, or I don't have control of my fan speed, which really sucks actually. I want to be able to have control of my fan speed. Alright guys, so that's it. There's going to be a little bit more tweaking to get this up and running fully, but essentially she's going. I'm just going to have to reinstall my drivers and stuff and fiddle with things a little bit. I actually may be able to just go in here. It might just be on the wrong driver selected. It might not. It might be on the default driver. So I'll play around with this a little bit more, and we'll see you guys shortly. So we got this on here. Like I said, we're getting 2 more cards to add to here. I'm gonna have to make some modifications because of how high my fan is here. But essentially this is it, guys. I'm going to tie all my lines up and stuff and give you an update probably in the next couple days on how everything went here. So we'll see you next time. Make sure to hit that subscribe down below too if you want to keep updated on my mining rig as well as any of my trading stuff that I'm doing. And yeah, thanks for watching. Alright guys, we got it up and running. All 3 cards are spinning away here, hashing away. Still haven't cleaned up all the wires and stuff yet. I'll need to do that. I wasn't able to get the display adapter to work there. My theory is that it'll work when I don't have the cards plugged in, but it doesn't seem to work when I plug in the cards, and I think it's because it's an AMD chipset and I'm having trouble getting both AMD and Nvidia to work together. So whenever I want to see the display, I'm just going to have to plug in the first card here to my HDMI port. I don't have it tie wrapped because I'll need to be able to access that card, but I don't want to leave it plugged in all the time, so I'll just unplug it when it's hashing consistently. And over here is a quick, here we go, here's our hash rate here. These are the settings that I got set in there. Well, I mean, not really settings. You can check that in previous videos actually for any settings that I've done. But essentially we're at around 1500 souls per second with the 3 cards. Not as efficient as we could be, but I like to be sitting right around 1500. This seems to be working well for me. What I ended up having to reinstall the drivers for the cards. For some reason they weren't coming up anymore. So that's where we're at. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this was helpful in some way, shape, or form. Stay tuned for any updates in the future, and we'll see you next time.